Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. Designed by Brett J. Gilbert and Matthew Dunstan, with art by Biboun, and published by Funforge Games. Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players, in which the players are racing against time to rescue 4 treasures from the evil professor's citadel. We're going to be running around his mansion, and we're going to be flicking off switches, disabling traps, and rescuing the treasures as the game progresses. So I think the best way for me to show you how all this works is to just start playing, and I'll explain the rules and various elements as I encounter them throughout the game. I've already set up here for a 2-player game. As you can see though, I'm sitting here all alone. So this game can play quite simply solo by just controlling 2 different characters. Or even more possibly, because there are 5 total characters to choose from in the game. We have Irene Elder, the Queen of Time, Edward Wire, the Lord of Gears, Nathan Goodspeed, the Master of Movements, and today I will be playing as Leroy Johnson, the Ruler of Switches, and Destiny Bradshaw, the Mistress of Randomness. I must say that the art in this game is stunning. So I'm going to be doing my absolute utmost in this video to showcase this amazing art, because each of these characters is quite incredible, and each of their decks of cards has a whole bunch of unique art on each and every card, and even the mansion is quite stunning. And you may not be able to see these from the top-down camera, so I will be removing their little standees, but here is our Professor Evil standee. I'll remove him from his plastic standee and just lay them flat on the board for the purposes of this video, because otherwise you won't be able to see what's going on very well. So let's just pop those standees off. And there are our characters. You will see that the player characters start off the board, because how this is going to work is we have to sneak into the mansion to rescue these treasures that Professor Evil has stolen. So he's invented himself a time machine, hence Citadel of Time. And he's jumping all over time and all over the world, stealing priceless artifacts, such as the Mona Lisa, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Da Vinci's notebook, and things like that. And it's our job as the players to sneak into his citadel and rescue those treasures. So we're kind of playing the role of a heist game, but technically we are recovering that which has already been stolen. So with that said, let's start with the first turn. I'm going to start with Destiny Bradshaw, because ladies first. And the first thing you do on your turn is draw 2 cards from this deck over here. Each player has the same number of cards, but each player's deck is completely unique. So we draw 2 of these cards, and these are going to give us special actions that we can do during the game. So let's see what we've got. The professor cannot walk around the castle this turn. He can still move using secret passages. That will become apparent how it works as we play. And before you roll the dice for the professor, that's these dice over here, choose the face of the color die. So how that will work is, at the end of each turn, we roll these dice, and they determine how the professor moves around his citadel. So choosing the face of the color die can give us a little bit of control over where he goes. So I think, right out the gate, let's use this one. I'm going to say the professor cannot walk around the castle this turn. So, at the start of your turn, you draw 2 cards, and then you pick one that is going to be the card you use that turn. And you can use it at any time during your turn. It just so happens that this one will have an effect at the end of the turn. So I'll set that off to the side next to her deck to remind us that that is the card we are using. And then Destiny Bradshaw has 3 possible actions. The actions you can do is you can move, so you can enter the citadel, and you enter through any one of these windows, over there, or over there. You cannot naturally enter through the main front entrance because we technically haven't been invited to this party. we are letting ourselves in, shall we say. So the first thing you need to do is you need to enter the Citadel. And if I look at the treasures that we have here, they show us these symbols, which indicate which traps are protecting that treasure in that room. And in order to rescue that treasure, all the traps of a matching symbol have to be turned off. You will see that at the start of the game, we start with some of these switches on, and some of them are off. So for us to rescue the treasures, we need to turn them all off. So if I look here, these ones need all of these saw treasures off. This one needs all of the saw treasures and all of these lasers turned off. And Da Vinci's notebook over here needs all of the cameras and this data pad over here turned off. So what's probably a smart play to start with is to go switch off all these saws, because that's going to help for both of these treasures. And you will see also that they have these colored tokens on them, which correspond to this clock in the middle of the board. And I should add that the pocket watch in the middle is not part of the game. That is my own little add-on. I just couldn't resist bringing a little bit of 3D element into this world. I think we need to switch off all the saws. So I'm going to enter the castle over here. Castle, Citadel, this place has a few names. And I'm going to come into the library. So I come in through the window. Destiny sneaks in through the window. And we're going to flick off this saw. So that is her first action, is to move. Second action, we will turn off the saw. Tick. And then third action, let's head in what direction? Okay, we're going to need the lasers turned off. There's a laser over there. And what's quite useful is they show you on the switches, the number in the bottom right corner indicates how many of that type of switch there are in the castle. So for the saw, we've got 3. We've got one saw over here that's turned off. There's the other saw also turned off. And there's the other saw also turned off. So we have all the switches off that we need to have off to go rescue the golden idol. So maybe Leroy Johnson can sneak in this window and come rescue this idol. Unless, of course, the professor interferes with our plans. So what would be another good thing to do? We're going to need this data pad switched off to rescue the notebook. So the other thing you can do is you can open a door. So I'm going to open this door over here. So that is my third action. And when you open a door, you remove it off to the side of the board. And now that door is open. So all of these little black markers indicate closed doors. And that is the end of Destiny's turn. She has done her 3 actions. We must remember the professor cannot walk around the castle this turn, but he can still use secret passages. So now, at the end of Destiny's turn, we pick up these 3 dice, and these are going to determine 2 things. The black die is going to determine how fast this time marker moves around the clock. If ever the time counter encounters one of these treasure markers, we lose that treasure into the professor's vault. And if that happens 4 times, we lose. If we rescue 4 treasures before that happens, we win. So this is going to determine how fast that marker moves around the clock. And then these 2 dice are going to determine the professor's movement. So what we do at the end of each turn is the active player rolls the dice, and that will tell us where the professor moves. We move the clock marker 1 step forward. And this here, we look at the color and we look at the number on this die. So in this case, it shows a 5. This means that the blue treasure marker moves backwards 5 minutes on the clock. And that is the end of Destiny's turn. So choosing that card didn't actually help us in this instance because the professor didn't move anyway. So how these dice can work is this one can move the time marker 1 or potentially 2 spaces. And this has simply got all the colors of the different treasures on it, which also correlates to these rugs at each threshold of each door. And if we were to roll, say for instance, this over here, where you've got 3 arrows and the blue, then the professor will move 3 times towards blue rugs. So if we had rolled that, and he was starting off in the laboratory, he would move through this door into here, and then he'd follow the blue rug into here, and then he'd follow the blue rug into here. And each time he moves, he switches back on any switches in the room he enters, and he closes any doors he passes through, because he's sure he left that switch on and he's positive he didn't leave that door open. So he's thinking, maybe he's getting a little bit absent-minded, but in fact we're the ones sneaking around and causing trouble. So that is the end of Destiny's turn. We've rolled the dice. It is now Leroy's turn. So first thing we do is Leroy will draw 2 cards from his deck, and let's see what we've got. Leroy can flip a switch off in a room with a treasure. That could be very useful. Or he can choose 2 players. You may choose yourself. Each chosen player may flip the switch off in their location. Okay, that's going to be less useful because the switch is already off in Destiny's location. So we're going to use this one, and I will use it immediately. So these cards, if it's an action like this, you can use it at any time during your turn. So let's just set that off to the side, and let's see where Leroy's going to come in. I think first things first, Leroy is going to come straight into the ballroom, sneaks in through that window, and he is going to rescue the golden idol, because we have all of the saw switches turned off. So his first action was to enter the ballroom. His second action is going to be to rescue the golden idol. So we take that treasure marker off the board, we place it up over here in our saved treasures area. Then, as soon as you save a treasure, you need to reveal a third one, because there always have to be 3 on the board. So we remove that blue marker, and we take this blue marker off the clock. So that was very good, because that was the closest one to the professor's time marker. We will discard the location card matching the room in which the treasure was just rescued from. So we'll discard that, removing it from the game. And we will reveal a new one, the laboratory. That's not good, because that's exactly where the professor is. And we can never enter a room which the professor occupies, for obvious reasons. Okay, we have revealed the crown jewels. We put the 1 marker on 50 minutes from the current time marker. So we go around here, and 50 minutes is over there. And we put the other marker on that treasure to indicate that that treasure is 50 minutes from the time marker. So we have 50 minutes in which to save that treasure. So now we've done 2 actions. Leroy entered the room and he rescued a treasure. Let's use this flip a switch off in a room with a treasure action. So that's a bonus action. That doesn't count as one of your 3 actions. And he's going to flip off this data pad. And now we can see that we've got all the saws off. We've got the data pad off, of which there is only 1. But we need all the cameras switched off. So where are cameras? Because we need the cameras off for the crown jewels and Da Vinci's notebook. So let's see, we've got the 1 camera in the gallery, and the other camera is in the trophy room. So we need to shoot over to the gallery to switch off that one. And we also need all of the lasers turned off. So for Leroy's third action, he is going to open this door over here. And he's hopefully going to be able to sneak through this way and come sort out these switches, and then maybe Destiny can come and rescue these treasures. So there's quite a bit of teamwork in this game where you're coordinating, okay, I'll shoot over here and switch off the switch, and you shoot over there and rescue the treasure, and getting everyone in the right place at the right time, and hoping that the professor doesn't muck up your plans too severely. Speaking of which, let's see what he does. He will move the clock marker 1 step, and he will move the red treasure marker 10 minutes towards the clock marker. That's not good. 5, 10 minutes. Oh dear. Right, okay, we need to move quickly to rescue these things. Oof, this is not going to be easy. Okay, so Destiny's turn. She is going to draw 2 cards. Reveal them, and we can choose 2 players. You may choose yourself. Each chosen player rolls the color die. If you roll blue, move to any room in the castle. This could be very helpful. If you roll green, take 2 extra actions. If you roll red, flip the switch on in your location, then move outside the castle. So that's bad. So this one's a little bit of a gamble. So each player will roll the color die, and we've got a chance of doing something really good, but also a chance of getting kicked out of the castle. So it's not very great. So let's see, although that wouldn't actually be a terrible thing, because if we get kicked out the castle, then Destiny could come back in through the gallery and switch off this camera. So that might be worth trying. Let's see what her other option is. It's also a roll the color die. You see why I included my pocket watch in the game, because they're dotted all over the place in this one. Roll the color die. If you roll blue, move the professor to any room in the castle. That could be very helpful because we can get him out of a room that we want to go to. If we roll green, move one treasure marker clockwise 10 minutes. Also helpful, so it would reverse that action that happened at the end of Leroy's turn. If we roll red, roll and resolve the dice for the professor twice at the end of this turn. Ouch. Okay, I think this one. Let's go with this one. Move to any room in the castle or take 2 extra actions. Or get kicked out the castle. So let's do that. So the first thing I'm going to do for Destiny is she's going to open a door, jimmy the lock, and sneak through here. And then I'm going to activate this. So now, if both of them get kicked out the castle, nothing too terrible can happen, because the switch is now already on. Okay, so we are going to roll the color die for Destiny first, and she rolls blue. Blue is good. Move to any room in the castle. Great. Okay, so she is going to move to any room in the castle. She is going to teleport into the gallery. Very handy. She found a little secret passage somewhere and snuck through to the gallery. Then we're going to roll the color die for Leroy, and he rolled red. That's not good. Flip the switch on in your location, then move outside the castle. Oh dear. Okay, so he triggered off some kind of booby trap, and this switch gets flicked back on, blink, and he gets kicked out the castle. Boom! So Destiny found a little secret passage to scurry through, and Leroy found some kind of trapdoor that just jettisoned him back out the castle. So that wasn't too great, but it also wasn't too bad, because we don't need these green switches off for any of the current treasures. Destiny has done 2 actions. She opened the door and she moved in here. That is a free action. So now she'll use her 3rd action to switch off this camera. Boom. And that is the end of her turn. We will roll from the professor. And he will finally move. He actually does something for a change. Right. This will move over here. And whenever it lands on one of these spaces on the clock, one player can flip over their player card, which shows a special unique action that they will then have access to throughout the remainder of the game. So we can only flip over one of these. So let's look at our 2 options here. We've got Leroy's card will allow us to may always move into the room with the professor. You never flee the castle if the professor moves into your location. So that hasn't happened yet, but let's say, for instance, like right now, let's just resolve the professor's movement quickly. So he's going to move 1 step towards the green rug. So he's going to move through here into the ballroom. He did not close this door because it was already closed, and the switch is already on. Had I still been there, so if I hadn't rolled that red die and I was still here with Leroy and the switch was off, and the professor enters the room with the player, he will kick that player out of the castle, boop, and he will flick on any switches in the room that he just entered. So rolling that red die really didn't have any negative effect because I would have just been kicked out of the castle anyway. Leroy's special action, however, allows him to ignore that. So he can enter the room with the professor. He manages to blend into the walls or something. He must be a master of disguise. And he never flees the castle if the professor moves into his location. So if we flip this over, he can negate that. But then you'll see also on the bottom half here, in addition, on your turn, you may flip this tile to flip a switch off anywhere in the castle. So as long as this is text side up like so, you have this ongoing benefit. But then at any time on your turn, you can flip it over to trigger off this one-time benefit. And then flip it back again whenever the time marker crosses one of these spaces. So that could be a very useful one. Let's see what Destiny's option is. Whenever you roll the dice for the professor, you may always re-roll one die once. That could be very, very useful. And then in addition, on your turn, you may flip this tile after you roll the dice to ignore the result once this turn. Both of those are very useful, but I think Leroy's action is going to be more helpful for now. So we're going to flip over his tile, and he now has this special ability where he can ignore the professor. And that was the end of Destiny's turn. We've moved the professor, we've moved the clock. Player returns to Leroy. So first thing we do, draw 2 cards, 1, 2, and see what his options are. The professor cannot flip switches on this turn because he's chained up. Oh my. Or flip a switch on anywhere in the castle to unlock 2 doors anywhere in the castle. That could be quite useful to get some doors open and free up our movement a bit. Let's see. I think this one is going to be more useful. Can we afford to flip any switches on? That's the question. So I'll keep these 2 over here for now while I decide which one is going to be more useful. You don't have to decide at the start of your turn. You can decide at any time during your turn which of the cards you're going to use. You can just only ever use one of them. So let's see. We need to rescue the Crown Jewels, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Da Vinci's Notebook. We have both cameras off and the data pad, so we can rescue Da Vinci's Notebook right now, if we can get there. Which we could, because Leroy got kicked out of the castle, so he could actually enter through this window. That would be 1 action, 2 actions, 3 actions. Yep, we're going to do that. Okay, so he's going to sneak in here, boom, come into the library, sneak through the library, into the cellar, and behind a barrel here somewhere, he finds Da Vinci's Notebook wrapped up in a little satchel. So he is going to rescue that because all the switches that are protecting that thing are switched off. We put it over here into the saved treasures area. We take its marker off the clock and we reveal a new one. So first we remove the cellar because that has been dealt with. We reveal the entrance hall. So we put a treasure in the entrance hall, which is the Crystal Skull. This game is full of little pop culture references. So we've got a couple Indiana Jones things happening here. So Crystal Skull is on 50 minutes. So we put the green marker on 50 minutes over there. And play continues. So Leroy has done his 3 actions. Now we can simply decide what we want to do. Do we want to stop the professor flipping switches on? I think we want to do that because we need the saws off. We need the data pad off. Yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to use this one. The professor cannot flip switches on this turn. We managed to hinder his movement somewhat for a time. We will roll the dice. And whoa, things move quickly. Okay, so the clock marker moves 2 steps forward. And he will step 2 steps towards the green rugs. So he comes back into the laboratory here. He would flip on the switch, but we played that card. So we somehow didn't stop him moving, but stopped him being able to flip switches off. Not quite sure how that works, but oh well. We'll roll with it. And his next movement is through here into the workshop. And now play proceeds back to Destiny. Draw 2 cards. These are the last 2 cards of her deck. So once these have been used and discarded, we'll shuffle her deck and keep drawing for her next turn. And our options are roll the color die. Blue unlocks 2 doors anywhere in the castle. Green flips 1 switch off anywhere in the castle. Or red, roll and resolve the dice for the professor twice at the end of this turn. So that's the second card that does that. Or, before you roll the dice for the professor, choose the face of the professor die. And the professor die is this one over here that determines how far he moves. Let's see, I think we're going to use this one. And we're going to decide when, during her turn, she's going to use that. She needs to rescue this, I think. So we need that off. So I think the first thing we're going to do is just use this action immediately and see what happens. So we're going to roll the color die. And she rolled blue, which means she can unlock 2 doors anywhere in the castle. Let's open this door, because she needs to get here to turn off the laser. So that's 1. And then 2, we want to come over to the crystal skull. So maybe this door over here. Okay, Destiny, off you go. Actually, no, hang on, rewind. Boop, boop. Leave that one closed. I'm going to open this door here so that maybe on Leroy's turn he can run in there and rescue that, because we'll have all the saws and all the lasers off. So we're going to remove that door. Then Destiny is going to use her 3 actions. 1 is going to be to run into the study. 1. 2, switch off the laser. 3, before she leaves the gallery, she'll open that door for her 3rd action. And that is the end of Destiny's turn. We roll the dice for the professor, and he will move 3 steps towards green. So he'll move into here and flick on that switch. I'm sure I left that switch on, he says. Then he'll move over here, and he'll go, really? I'm sure I didn't leave that door open. What is happening? And close the door. And then he circles around back into the laboratory, doing the rounds in his house, and he says, why are all my traps turned off? I'm sure I left that laser turned on. And that rightly ruins some of our plans. So that's what the professor usually does. We've been quite lucky so far in the dice roll. Until that one, of course. And then this will move 1 step towards red. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are pretty much doomed. I don't see that we can rescue those, because we need this saw turned off, and we need that laser, and we can't get there as long as the professor is there. Well, Leroy can, because he can ignore that rule, but as a general rule, you can't do that. Okay, let us resolve Leroy's turn, and we'll reveal these 2 cards. Flip a switch off in a room adjacent to the professor. That isn't very helpful, because none of the things need these green switches off. And it doesn't say a room where the professor is, it's adjacent to the professor, so that's not super helpful. Or swap the locations of 2 switches anywhere in the castle. Right now, neither of these are super helpful. Neither of those are super helpful at all. Okay, we need that switch off over there. If only the professor were in the workshop or the ballroom, then this one would be very helpful to get that saw switched off. But as the case may be, that's not going to help us. Okay, I'm just going to use this flipper switch off in a room adjacent to the professor, and we're going to switch off this one in the ballroom. Not that it helps us much, but maybe when one of these treasures disappears, it will. Okay, then the next action, Leroy is going to go... Where is Leroy going to go? We need to get that switch off. So he's going to go 1. Then he's going to go 2, open this door. And then 3, he's going to use his special ability. And he's going to move in there. So he can enter the room with the professor because of his camouflage or whatever it is he has. So was that his 3rd action? Yes, it was. But then he's going to use this. So we're going to flip this over, and he's going to switch off the saw over here, because he is the master of switches. Right. Let's see what the professor does. Okay, blue treasure moves backwards 10 minutes. 10 minutes on there. Time marker moves into this space, and dong! We lose the Dead Sea Scrolls. They are gone into the professor's vault. So we remove these 2 markers, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are lost to time into the professor's secret stash. Oh dear. 3 more of those, and we lose. And I think that is a good point to pause and wrap it up there. I think that gives you a very good idea of how all the elements work in the game. I just realized that I forgot to explain one final element in the game, and that was how the secret passages work. So if when you roll the dice at the end of a turn, you roll a colored die and this arrow symbol, that means that the professor will move from wherever he is in the castle to the room that has that matching treasure. So for instance, he's over here at the moment in the trophy room. So if we were to roll this at the end of a player's turn, he would instantly go from the trophy room into the laboratory, because that is where that treasure with the green marker is located. And then he'll immediately, when he arrives in the room, he will lock all doors in the room he enters, and he'll flick on the switch. Whereas usually when he moves into a room, he only locks the doors that he moves through. So that's just one final element that didn't come up during the gameplay that I thought I should let you know about. And with that, I'll hand it back over to myself and wrap up this video. We've rescued a couple treasures, we've lost a treasure, but I think the rest of the game will play out very much the same. We'll keep doing the actions, running around the castle, flicking off switches, rescuing treasures, until eventually either we have rescued 4 or we have lost 4, at which point the game will end. And with that, I will say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show.